Good morning. Our hand today is going to be Ace King. This is a 5NL game. Full ring. Under the gun, min raises, folds to me. I 3-bet. Big blind calls. Early position calls. Two hands, that's it. And I'm just going to give him a range like this. Early position under the gun. Maybe he raises. We can kind of scale it and kind of get rid of some of these better hands and assume that he would have just raised it more. More than two big blinds. I kind of think aces would have 4-bet and kings would have 4-bet. And once I 3-bet here, I also kind of think ace king might go ahead and 4-bet a little bit. And those hands might be the ones that would have also raised a little bit larger. I'm going to say that queens probably would have raised larger. Jacks would have probably raised larger. So I'm going to kind of reduce their frequency and only say we have about a quarter of those. I think if they did raise a smaller size, then I think these are hands that are just going to be called. And probably ace queen, and we'll leave it just like that. So we're going to go with a range that's somewhat stronger. My range is going to be something like this. I'm going to attack a little bit more frequently, so just standard 3-bet, but we've got a 3-better call range, and I think I'm just going to be 3-betting all of those. Try to get a heads up against a player who I perceive to be a little bit weak because they're raising small and under the gun. If he has a strong hand, he has a strong hand, but at this point, at a 5NL game, I kind of assume that there are more weaker players than better players, so I'm just going to attack them, try to build up a pot. I think a problem with some of these players have is that they tend to call too much, and if their mistake is that they're calling too much, then what you want to do is try to get that money in the pot that you figure to win. So I think they call too much, call down with weaker hands, so try to build the pot now. So if we connect and if we improve that, we can get called down by that one pair hand when we have a hand that can easily beat that. That's kind of the idea. So that's going to be my raising range. And then we get a caller. And just like the first guy, we only have 11 hands. We do have some notes on them, like a 3-bet range. We got a 4-bet range of ace king off. Got called 2-bets from the blinds, 9-7. I think against a 3-bet here, he's going to tighten up. So I kind of like all the pocket pairs, minus kings and aces. I think he's going to be raising those, and I also set 75% for the aces. I'm sorry, for ace king. We know he has 4-bet with it. I think it's possible that he would 4-bet with ace king again. We're going to give him like suited aces and just some of these hands just to call. I think for the rest, he's probably okay just with folding. Now, it could be wrong. He could be calling with a much wider hand, but at this point, we don't know. So I'm just going to go back on like a default type of range. All right, so 3 of us see a flop. Queen, 9. Goes check, and it is to me, and I just go ahead and fire here. I could be behind. 100% I could be behind to a queen. But I think this board just kind of favors me. I think we have some weakness by the other players. Again, we can't judge anything based on their fold c-bet stat because we don't have enough hands. So I think when we look at draws, I think we are going to be looking at, open-ender cut shots. That's not a massive amount. I think we're going to probably be betting our overcards just like we did. I think we're probably going to be checking like our quads. Maybe even the full house. Thing is that you don't have a lot of draws out there. You got backdoor draws um, that will help, but you don't really have a whole lot. So it's kind of like if we've connected on this board, it's unlikely anyone else connected. So I'm kind of thinking that some of the time um, we're just gonna be checking like here with the queen jack queen 10. I mean, having the jack, so we not only block queens, but having the jack and the 10, we are now blocking some of those open enders that could be calling. So I kind of think we probably don't need to be betting on those all the time. Same thing with king queen. We're going to be blocking some of those straight draws. Um, I think the overpairs are probably going to be bet. I think some of those three of kinds are probably going to be bet. Um, and then of our remaining pocket pairs for like the bluffs, probably kind of adding up some of these. So if you do like twos, threes, and fours, that gets us to 34, which means we can kind of go back and maybe we bet with a king queen. And I do feel like the queen jack queen 10 is going to be a check here, so we're still betting like 50% here. And we're going to be checking. We're going to have some checks with these backdoor draws. So I bet a third pot, and we get a call. So this guy folds. This person calls. Um, I think we're looking at probably any of those pairs. Um, of course, we'll give him the open ender, gut shots. Maybe the overcards. Maybe they call once and that's about it. Thing is do they call with the ace high? If they call with ace high, they're calling with those ace kings. So yeah, let's give them the ace high here. So basically calling 100% of hands. Yeah, because king jack's the gut shots. We're going to scale this down and say only half of them call. Nah, I take that back. We'll just leave it. We'll just leave it. We'll say 100%, which means that, if they're calling 100%, what's the point of betting here? We have no fold equity, just bet for value. Well, the idea is that he might be calling that now, but he might not call the turn, so he's giving us 8 big blinds, basically. So turn comes out to be a 9, which isn't really that good a card, that great a card for us. It really isn't. So it's on us to bet. I think we bet our full houses. I think we kind of go smaller on the full houses. I think we start to slow down on our bets. So maybe just get shot open ender. And it's possibly the overpairs that we're gonna be checking here. Yeah, I think that's I think we bet full house and then these draws, and that's about it. We just don't have a whole lot. Um, yeah, we just don't have a whole lot. And when I say a whole lot, that 9 doesn't really improve us. So if we're hoping for the turn card to build up more fold equity for us, we didn't get it. And since we didn't get it, we don't really have a reason to bet here as a bluff. Now we still do need bluffing hands in our range to make us more difficult to play. But what we've done is basically gone from like 50% down to 33% for a turn barrel. Just because I think if we bet and all these hands called on the flop, then they're probably still going to call on the turn, because they're going to say, well, I really don't believe that you have anything, so I'm going to call with my ace high. And they're more inclined to call with the ace high because they're saying, well, if I don't have anything, then at least I play the board with the ace high hand. So so I do think we start to narrow our range down. And then the ace hearts comes, and that's actually pretty good. So villain checks, and I thought maybe going for a little bit of value here. So once it goes check checks, I'm kind of thinking quads are going to be betting here, and they're going to probably be betting small. So yeah, let's eliminate those. I think the kings are probably going to be betting. They're going to probably be betting small. The nines, probably just going to be checking those. So we're looking at a range like that, where it's kind of mixed between top pair and nothing. If I bet, I don't think he's calling with any of those hands, those nothing hands. So I think he's going to be folding more than 50% of the time, and calling with the top pair, which kind of leads me to think that for my hands, I should be betting probably everything. Probably everything. So top pair plus. So that's about 50-50, a little bit more value. So yeah, I think we should probably be betting everything here, because we're going to have almost 50% bluff, and I think he's going to be folding more than 50%. So let's see what the hands play out. So he shows ace king, I show ace king. So he has that in his range. So overall, how do I think I did? Okay, I do think I missed the bet on the river. I think if I bet, we'll probably get called by that ace king. But I think there's other hands that I think he's just going to dump them. He's just going to fold them, and that gives us the opportunity to bluff. It would be hard for him to call. Basically, we're playing the board, and maybe it's wishful thinking to say that he's going to fold all of that. Fold all of his nothings. He might look at that and say, well, I'm going to play the board, so you have to have something. And maybe he calls with all of those, in which case, then we can't be calling. We can't be betting with our nothing hands, which really is just 2s, 3s, and 4s. All right, so I think what we're going to do is just go ahead and check GTO. All right, so got it set up. Key in that villain's going to check. It's not going to donk, so we'll get that going. And then question was, should we bet? And it looks like we are betting most of the time, 81%. So this is against the heads up player. We were up against 2 other players at the time, so I think that's going to affect it. But if we bet here and he calls, what do we do? So we are betting most of the time here, and it's favoring a smaller bet size, so our smaller bet size works. He calls, and that was, let's just go here, 9 of hearts. So he checks. Now the question was, now you can see, okay, our bet now really just dropped. Dropped to 37%. So we kind of had that ace king again as a check. So we're I think kind of right on track. Top full house, we're gonna have some checks there. Bottom full houses, we're gonna be betting. Queen jack, queen 10s are bets. So I think those would have been somewhat of a check, because we had because we're blocking some of those. But so we checked behind, and then ace of hearts. So now villain checks, and yeah, kind of as expected, we should probably be betting there. If we bet, we assume the villain's going to be calling with some weaker hands just to kind of bluff catch. and I think we go for a little bit of value there. Um, Based on our sizing, Villain's going to be calling about 27%, 28%, but in reality, I don't think he does. I don't think he's following GTO. So I think overall, I think we played the hand okay. Other than missing that river bet, I think we should have bet a little bit on the river. Try to get called by worse. And I think at a 5-0 game, it is entirely possible that we would have been called by worse. We would have been called by those weaker pairs, and that would have just been playing board. So I think this is a spot where we can't assume that we'll lose more than half the time if called. I think we're either going to win or split the pot, and I think for that reason, that's why we tend to bet. So, kind of had a good idea here. We're gonna avoid this first decision because this was heads up, and I think against a heads up player, I would have been c betting most everything here. But against two players, I think you tighten up a little bit. So, all right, hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another.